Hey everyone, it's Maribel Blue with a new Pathetically Unfiltered. If you are new here, welcome to this channel. I do news and reactions. Please take a moment and consider subscribing and hit that bell notification so you will get notified when I upload a new video. And if you are not new, welcome back. So this is going to be like a TikTok edition of the Pathetically Unfiltered news, and I'll be sharing different TikTok videos of things that are happening in the TikTok streets. The first video I am going to share with a girl who took racism on another level and in another country. And in other countries, they don't take racism very kindly. Watch this.
So did you guys know that racism is illegal in Brazil and can actually get you arrested? Guys, I'm about to go over one of the biggest fuck around and find out stories that you might have heard in the travel space in a while. But basically, this 29-year-old female from Argentina named Agustina Paez was visiting Rio de Janeiro in January. She was at a bar with friends, and I guess they were drinking, having a good old time. The tab came by. She was in disagreement with the amount I guess she was being charged. A dispute ended up happening. She exited the establishment and then proceeded to do monkey noises, basically calling the staff monkeys, which is considered racism. And so she thought she was going to get away with it. Everything was going to be cool. She was going back to Argentina, no problem. Psych. Brazil said, hell nah, we ain't standing for that. And they got her ass. They arrested her. And then on top of that, they released her on an ankle bracelet. And she has to remain in Brazil for the duration of time until they sentence her. And she could be sentenced to 2 to 5 years of imprisonment. Okay? So Brazil does not fuck around when it comes to racism, guys. Make sure you're doing your research when you're going to a different country before you end up getting locked up for something stupid. I know people that have been locked up for smoking cigarettes, smoking weed overseas. And I'm not even trying to say that racism is something you guys should be doing overseas. Like, obviously, learn to be a bit more open-minded and not be ignorant. I don't condone racism. But in this case, this idiot didn't realize that racism is illegal in Brazil. She thought it was like Argentina where you could say and do whatever you want. But in Brazil, you can't do that. And they locked her ass up, and she found out very quickly that you can't fuck around in Brazil. So guys, I hope you enjoyed that story, and make sure you do your research before you go to other countries, guys. Simple as that.
So clearly in Brazil, if you try to act like the fool, you will find out and be arrested. There are other countries who take what we don't take seriously, they take it very seriously. And I don't think that people understand that. I remember someone sharing a story with me how they went to China and they were trying to do things outside of the norm of Chinese culture. And I'm like, you know what? If I'm visiting China, I am not fucking around. I will follow everything to the letter. There are people who don't want to do that because they don't have a humble bone in their body. Learn, be humble. You want to visit other countries and experience other cultures, you have to learn the value of respect. You can't just go around and think you could do whatever the fuck you want. Clearly, this girl's going to find out and probably do jail time. Like, how stupid are you? You could have avoided all of that if you just don't be stupid. I mean, it's that simple. Now, the other thing that has been going on, I had no idea about this. Apparently, my sister had sent it to me in a message and I missed it because we send so many videos to each other. This was something that I completely overlooked. So there is this couple, Kristy and Desmond. And if you don't know who they are, this is the girl who dresses up in heels and she starts doing all of these crazy things in shoes. She had dressed up as Squidward, and they presented themselves to be like the power couple of TikTok. They featured all of these crazy videos, these pranks. Her husband would do this crazy scream laugh, and they just seem like the perfect couple. And I've said this before. I always tell people, don't believe everything you see. Just don't. Don't think that every couple who's pranking each other and then showing all of these feature videos of nobody ever believed that we would make it together. And then look at us 10 years, 15 years later, we have children and we're just living this beautiful life. Kristy and Desmond featured something completely different. Leave it to TMZ to find this information. So the backstory is this is Desmond with some mysterious woman making out with her. I mean, like should be, they look like they need to get a room with the way they're carrying on with each other. And somebody puts a comment over here. It says, the way they are kissing, she's been around way longer. Yeah, it really looks that way. TMZ be like, and I just want to say this. Let's not buy into these perfect couples because they play pranks and they do things to each other. People are going to feature what they want you to see. And clearly, Kristy and Desmond portrayed themselves as being a happy couple, and maybe they were not. And we don't know what was the struggle behind it. Of course, people are going to come onto the attacking the girl who's making out with him. Look, she's not the only one participating. So is he. Everyone is involved, and they all need to take responsibility for their actions and let them deal with it. It's not really for us to say or to pick sides. That's not our job.
I know this isn't what people expected to hear, especially after seeing us celebrate 10 years together not that long ago. But here's the truth. At the end of 2025, my marriage was already in trouble. Kristy and I were facing challenges we couldn't ignore anymore. We didn't give up overnight. We tried, we talked, we looked for solutions. During that time, I suggested a separation. We communicated openly about where we were and where we were heading. I also need to say this clearly. I made choices I'm not proud of. I've taken responsibility for them. And I told Kristy the truth, face to face. Eventually, we made the decision to divorce. What matters more than anything right now is this: Kristy is the mother of my children. That role will always come first. No headlines, no rumors, no narrative changes. That I will continue to show up for my kids, fully and with love. I know this news disappointed a lot of people. I'm sorry for the pain and the noise this has caused our families. All I ask is for privacy as we move through one of the hardest chapters of our lives. Thank you to everyone who has supported us over the years. That support still means everything to me. I'll keep doing what I love, sharing food, creativity, and moments that are real. And I hope you'll keep walking forward with me.
So Ray Williams Johnson did this video where he was covering a story of this couple who decided to get into like this whole construction, redoing your house thing. One of them was saying that he was a real estate agent. I think it was the husband that he was saying he was a real estate agent, and let's start this business where we can redo your house. And I love the way he tells stories because it's always on point and funny.
So this TikTok couple is in big trouble. So the guy in this couple, his name's Chris. And Chris, he's about 30 when this story starts, and he's living in Texas. Now, Chris really wants to be a home improvement influencer with his wife, this woman, Raquel. And so they want to be home improvement influencers, which basically means that they're trying to be TikTokers who focus on home renovations and interior design, stuff like that. So one day in 2020, Chris and Raquel decide to start their own home renovation and construction company. They're basically gonna remodel people's homes for them. And in order to market their new company, they start putting themselves on social media.
Hey guys, I'm Chris.
And I'm Raquel. We're with the Judge DFW Real Estate Group.
Now during this time, Chris, he's working as a real estate agent. Plus, he knows a bit about construction. But that's not exactly what he tells people. He actually lies to people and tells them that he's a licensed architect. In fact, he alludes to it right in his social media bio. Now, eventually, people start to reach out. I assume because they're seeing their videos and advertisements online. And these people, they're wanting things like new kitchen floors for their house or whatever. Once a potential customer shows interest, Chris and Raquel will offer them a low bid compared to their competitors. And Chris will promise to complete all the work in 4 to 6 months.
And you get to move in knowing that you don't have to make any repairs.
And people hear this deal and they're like, sounds good. Once they get into the contract and paperwork of it all, Raquel will let them know that they need a $10,000 deposit to get everything started. Then, of course, the client pays the money and boom, the work officially starts.
Now, can you just imagine having to fork over a $10,000 deposit and nobody is asking questions? You're just forking over your money without any questions, without checking anything, any licenses, reviews. Like, nobody's doing their homework.
Now, so far, everything is going well, and Chris and Raquel start attracting more and more clients. But then they start running into some problems. The main issue is that Chris, he really doesn't seem to have a good idea of what he's doing. After a homeowner hires his company to do a job, he'll then turn around and hire cheap subcontractors to actually do the work. And a lot of times, those subcontractors will do a terrible job. And on top of that, sometimes Chris just won't even pay the subcontractors. And because the subcontractors aren't getting paid, they'll just stop showing up. So homeowners will be paying all this money for things like new windows or new doors or whatever, and those new windows or doors will just never get installed because the workers never showed up. And of course, at some point, the clients start to realize, hey, all this stuff I'm paying for, it isn't getting done. What's the deal? And Chris and Raquel will then come up with excuses like that this is a totally normal delay in construction and this happens all the time with home remodeling. And the homeowners don't want the work to completely stop, so they'll continue making the payments. And of course, these payments are going right into Chris and Raquel's pocket. Now, at some point, some of these homeowners will get mad, inevitably. Once this happens, once a client starts getting frustrated, they try to hit up Chris and complain, and Chris, he'll just, ghost them. He just won't pick up their calls. So now, a lot of these poor homeowners are stuck with a half-finished house and a contractor who's no longer answering his phone. What a nightmare. And if you think it can't get worse than that, it actually does. So the homeowners remodeling projects that were abandoned by Chris and Raquel, these people are now having to pay new contractors to come in and fix the mess. And these aren't small projects either. Some homeowners paid Chris and Raquel hundreds of thousands of dollars to get work done. In fact, one homeowner gets screwed over by this so bad, this guy has to file for bankruptcy. Not only that, but a lot of these people move out of their house completely while the work is being done, and Chris flakes out and he stops showing up or whatever, and so now these people are without a place to live. So anyway, Chris and Raquel, they keep this scheme going. They're out there abandoning project after project after project while still keeping these people's money. And they don't do this just like one or two times. They scam over 40 different people out of, are you ready for this? $5 million total.
Can you just imagine that shit? $5 million? How do you even begin to make restitution on that? People, you gotta do your homework.
And of course, inevitably, like every scammer we talk about, Chris and Raquel, they're taking all this money they got and they are spending it on themselves. They spend $82,000 buying shit on Amazon. They spend $27,000 of it on their own mortgage payments. They spend $10,000 of it on plastic surgery. And all these shenanigans go on for a few years. And the really bad thing is that when homeowners report them to the police are basically like, oh, a contractor didn't show up for work? Sounds like a civil matter. Because, contractors are notorious for not showing up. Plus, police just don't yet realize the severity of this fraud because they don't realize that over 40 families have been scammed. So it looks like nothing is ever going to be done about this and that Chris and Raquel can just keep taking homeowners' money and abandoning their projects.
I like how they go out to dinner with the same clothes that they walk around with the construction project.
Until 2022. 2022 is when Chris and Raquel's little scheme finally starts to catch up with them. Because it's around this time that the Texas Board of Architecture discovers that Chris is falsely claiming that he's an architect, including in his social media bio. And so the board issues him a formal warning. Like, bro, you're not a licensed architect. Stop telling people you are. Now, you would think that this formal warning would get Chris and Raquel to pump the brakes a little, maybe slow down a bit on this whole scheme. But they don't. They keep taking on new clients and they keep taking their current clients' money while leaving old abandoned projects behind. Now, eventually, someone that they screwed over decides to take action and connect with other people that they screwed over. And this person starts a Facebook group. And quite a few former clients of Chris and Raquel's join this group, and they all start sharing stories. And some of them get so fed up that at some point they decide to file lawsuits against Chris and Raquel. Because a lot of these people lost a lot of money. Not to mention that the work Chris and Raquel oversaw was so cheaply done that a ton of it isn't even up to code. Like, they built a 2-car garage with no rafters. In one house, they put in floors that were uneven. And there are door openings in the same house that were all different sizes. They put in a lot of bad wiring and stuff. In one place, they installed windows that weren't even rectangle. How do you even do?
And think about the violations of electricity. Like, you don't want to move into a house and then have that shit burned down because you hired somebody who doesn't have the licenses and the contractors that can execute the projects the way they are supposed to be executed.
Do that. And so anyway, because a lot of their work isn't up to code, Chris and Raquel's company ends up getting 424 citations for code enforcement violations. 424. Well, so anyway, eventually, so many people have been scammed by them that the local police and the FBI have to get involved. And they all start investigating together, and they see that Chris isn't an architect at all, and then they find all these projects that weren't completed and how they're using the money they were paid for personal things. And so, bam, Chris gets arrested. Also, bam, Raquel gets arrested. And I couldn't find a mugshot, but here's what they look like in real life. And so ultimately, they both take a plea deal, and they actually haven't been sentenced yet, but Raquel is facing up to 5 years in prison, while Chris is facing up to 20 years in prison.
I just will never ever understand how people allow themselves to be scammed on that level without doing research. You know what? Yes, we're not perfect. People have been scammed in one form or another because people who are scammers, they're very good at what they're doing. I mean, clearly these people knew what they were doing. They knew how to execute their own plan. And you know what? And I'm going to say this. If you're a business owner and you want to buy something luxurious or you want to go and get that Botox that you've been wishing for, there's nothing wrong with that. For as long as your customers are happy people, they are getting what they are paying for, and they come back because they enjoy your product, whatever that product may be. But don't rip people off, because that is not a good look, especially on this level where you're pretending to be an architect. Like, you can't just fucking do that. You take away from people who went to school for this, who sacrificed their whole education and life to be able to become a licensed architect, where you have the board sending you a letter telling you can't fucking do this shit because you're making us look bad. So they're getting exactly what they deserve. And that's what's going on in the TikTok streets. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And as always, remember, be good to yourself, be good to each other. Most importantly, take care of you. Bye, everybody.